So good afternoon. Firstly, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. I'm going to start with a boast. By the time this hour is finished, you are now going to see people differently than how you did from now, right? It will be different. It will be different in an hour, but it will be different forever. You're going to change the way you see the world forever. Now, that's quite a big boast for an hour. It's a lot of a boast in 1 hour, right? That's what that is. However, it's going to be true. So, who wants to hear some good news? Yes. Okay. I think that when someone asks you that, they should be a bit more enthusiastic. Do you want to hear some good news? Yes. That's almost all of you, which is fantastic news. So the good news is that's you, and you, and everybody in the world, and everybody you know, and everybody, in fact, who you don't know, is like 25% of the whole world's population in the way in which they communicate. In this, it's about 8 billion for argument's sake. That's 2 billion people who communicate in exactly the same way as you, which is a lot of people, which is great news. The not so good news is 75% don't. 25%, 50% of actually you do have commonality with. But then there's 25% of the whole world's population, again, 2 billion people, who, if you're really honest about it, you find more than just a little bit annoying. But that's balanced out by the fact that's exactly the way they feel about you. So the important thing is to understand who those people are and to learn how to communicate with them. So during this session, it is interactive, so I am going to ask you questions. The questions I ask, on the whole, are relatively daft, but they're there for a reason, because you're thinking, this is a stupid question, of course we know the answer to it. I say that, but then suddenly someone doesn't, and then so we'll be all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by asking, I'm going to go to the back row, right, because they thought they were safe in this conversation. So this gentleman here, right, well, it could have been anybody, but it was you, so there you go. It's like when the national lottery came about, it was just, it could be you, right? But the chances were so incredibly slim that I never bothered. Yes, you'd roll. You don't know that yet, though, do you? This could be like you hitting the lottery, frankly. So what am I holding in my hand? A hat. Yeah, I am. And David, what? Because I've read your name, I'm not some sort of psychic. What type of hat is this?
USA branded baseball.
It's a baseball cap. Brilliant. More detail than I needed, but thank you very much. And there may be reason for that. We will find out. Yes, it is a USA branded baseball cap. So there are, say, 60 people in this room. I'm going to ask this lady here. It's a sort of type of maths question, but you can just take a guess. 60 people in the room. How many out of 60 does this hat fit?
20?
It's the wrong answer, but it was a good guess. I did say guess. Anybody here? I made you sit in the front row, so it's only fair that I speak to you. Out of 60 people, or however many people are in the room, in fact, however many people are actually in this building or in Chester at any one time, how many does this fit? I think the clue's in my elongation.
Percentage or absolute number?
Absolute number. Right, well, what I'm saying is percentage. Yeah, go percentage. It's the best percentage.
60%.
It's, I don't know if countries around the world ever had the card sharks, or what do you call it, Bruce Forsyth? What was it called? It was like higher or lower, that was that. So actually it's much higher, it's 100% of the people do fit, and you knew that, yes. Right? So go on.
Because it's adjustable.
It is adjustable. Now hopefully, if I can get a good, you got your headphones on there. That wasn't that good, was that loud? It's loud in your ears, just no one else can hear it. It's adjustable. So it's great, isn't it? You make a cap, you worry about colour, you worry about design, and don't have to worry about size. That's a great idea. It's called a one-size-fits-all solution. So it's a great idea for caps, but it's a terrible idea for everything else. And yet, this is what we experience pretty much, a one-size-fits-all solution. You are in receipt of one-size-fits-all solutions everywhere you go. You've all been to school, I'm assuming, unless you cheated with your exams, right, to be lawyers. But if you've all been to school, and what you would have received there was a one-size-fits-all solution. And one-size-fits-all solutions don't work. And the reason is you're only like 25% of the world population in the way you think, behave, and communicate. And I'm going to introduce you to iMA. iMA is spelled IMA. For arguments for branding, it's a small I, capital M, capital A. and it stands for Identify, Modify, Adapt. We're not going to worry about modifying or adapting, we're just going to worry about identification for today. And there's two types of identification. Self-identification, so you know your own style, but most and more importantly, what you're looking at is the style of other people. And that is what we're going to do, is where you can learn and look at people, see how they communicate and go, aha, this is their style. I'm going to work with them like that. Now, I know we've met before at some point. Your face is familiar to me. So I'm going to ask you a question because I think you might know the answer to this. I want you to finish a well-known saying.
I don't
Okay.
think we have met before.
Have we not?
No.
Have we not? Okay.
Just for the record.
Okay. There's nothing untoward about it. It was just a thought our face was familiar. So you're from Aaron's, right?
Yes.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
So she might not remember. She meant to remember me.
2018.
I've been there since, haven't I? No? Have I not? Okay. Anyway, not important.
It's not fixed.
But it's not fixed. Right, okay. I'm going to ask you another question later in that case, as we've never met before. This well-known saying is, treat people how ...
You want to be treated.
Treat people how you want to be treated. Just put your hands up in the air if you've heard that expression. Okay, keep your hands up, please. Don't put them down. I will tell you when. Tell me, for those who have their hands up, if you agree with that sentiment, treat people how you want to be treated. Okay, most people agree. Put your hands down. Except, he didn't know the expression to begin with, so I ruled him out immediately. I love the fact people point out other people's. That was it. Oh, you don't have to force him. This is a free country. We can do what we like. So here we have a situation where we all have heard of it, and you all agree with the fact that treating people how you want to be treated yourself is the saying that we all know. But I've got to tell you something. This is what if you come away with nothing else today, this is the most important thing. It's not true. It's wrong. You've got to treat people how they want to be treated. That's where the magic works. And iMA gives you that opportunity to do so. So let me tell you what iMA is, break it down. It's a lot of me writing on a flip chart here, but it's still me asking you questions. And you've set yourself up for the next question, right? Okay, so.
Answer the next question.
Okay. That's slightly harder, but you volunteered, so that's fine. Okay, so to begin with, the world divides like this. Up here, we have assertive people. Have I spelled that right? I'm just sorry, because I've got a camera on me, all of a sudden. I'm suddenly worried about how I'm spelling. So, let me see. We go. You're smiling a lot. That always helps. You probably regret it now. Tell me, can you describe what an assertive person is?
Assertive person. They smile a lot. They try to get their way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
That's a good question. An assertive person.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good. Aggressive?
Oh, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'll tell you the three ways in which I describe an assertive person. So, as you quite rightly said, you said wanted to get their way, but I say they are very comfortable and willing to express their opinions. They're not holding back. The other things about them which are key is that they like jobs that need decision-making and that they can work at pace. And the third thing is they are forward-thinking. They're thinking the future all the time. I'm not talking about what the 23rd century looks like. I'm talking about the fact they've got plans to move on. Everything is at pace. They want to move on, and that's what assertive people do. Okay, now you wanted this question, right? And there's 60 witnesses. It's on camera, right? It's being streamed across the world. If these people are assertive people, what are these people? The opposites.
Just quiet people.
Well, yeah, it could be, but they're non-assertive, right? That's what they are. Okay, so having then described, the gentleman who used to play rugby, right? I was sat at the back. It's not, again, I can't go, rugby. Tell me then, therefore, how I described an assertive person, how would you then describe a non-assertive person?
Someone who thinks when I'm being clear about my opinions, I'm being aggressive.
Right, or the fact they won't share their opinions at all, right? That's it. What else might be about a non-assertive person?
The might be less confident to express their views.
Yeah, but the other thing about them, which is key, is non-assertive people are good at jobs that need close consideration and detail, right? And they like working slowly and carefully, and they think in the present. Now, there are two groups, and one group also likes to think in the past. And I don't mean like, 1800s or whatever it is. I mean, they just need comparison from some time in the past for whatever it is that they're doing. So that's the difference between assertive and non-assertive people. Here you go, camera. And then we are dividing this way. So here are I'm just going to put left just because that's easy. These are left brain thinking people. Left brain thinking people are logical. Left brain thinking people are convergent in their thinking. Left brain thinking people are task-led and thoughts-driven. They're also self-contained. So they're not going to share their closest thoughts and feelings with people unless they know them, like them, or trust them. Everybody else is not going to get anything from them. The opposite, then, are right brain thinking people. And right brain thinking people, actually, they'll talk to anybody about anything, right? They're just that open. But they are not logical. That sounds better than illogical, doesn't it? Illogical sounds rude. So they're not logical. They are divergent in the way they think. They are absolutely feelings-driven, and they are also interested, much so less in tasks, but much more in relationships. And they are the four elements of iMA. You're assertive or you're not. You're a left or right brain thinker. And which two of those four elements you are decides your iMA style. And I'm now going to introduce you to those one by one. So, here we go. Assertive and left brain thinking people are high reds. So high reds are the most assertive style of person. They are go-getters. They are goal-driven. They are leaders. They are people who want to get things done, and they want to get things done quickly. They are very, very time obsessed. I don't mean time and space. I mean their time. They'll give you as much or as little as they wish to do, and not a second longer. When you are talking to them, its idea is to be bright, be brief, be gone, right? That's how they communicate. It's a bit like, tell me what you want to tell me and just go away, right? That is how high reds communicate. And when you know that, you can communicate to them in that style. The thing I'm trying to help high reds with is to stop them doing it externally with people who are not high red, right? They're okay with their 25%. Everyone else thinks that their correspondence is rude. And I know they don't really want that to be the case, but often it just is, right? That's just the way it is. Okay, I'm coming back to you now, right, Emma, because you said we never met before. Just tell me, right, we haven't met before, you don't know me, you weren't at Erin's in 2018. No. What colour's this? Oh, my God.
Is it purpley or blue? Or
well,
something?
it's purple, but for argument's sake today, it's yellow, right, okay? Yellow doesn't show on here, that's the point. Well, here's another question I can ask you. I have to ask, no, it's the last time I will ask you a question, right? But it might, because if you know the answer, you're going to feel... actually, if you do know the answer, I get everybody to give you a massive round of applause. If you do it quickly, you'll get a standing ovation as well. I can only ask a woman that question. Did you know that? I can only ask a woman a question, what colour this is. Do you know why that is?
Is it anything to do with colourblindness?
It is. Round of applause. Come on, standing ovation. Come on, up, come on. There you go. There was an interesting observation that no, there'll be none, but the interesting observation is you were the first person to give you a standing ovation was you, right? Marvellous. That's fantastic, which also probably gives away your iMA colour as well.
Well done, Emma.
Yeah. So, high yellows are assertive and right brain thinking. Very rarely does anybody say about a high yellow that they didn't know they were there. Right? It's very unusual. They are very talkative, very much about ideas, very much about persuasion, very important for them to be liked. Fear of missing out is a big thing, right? If a high yellow's at a networking event, something, okay, this is a conference, but where people are talking, you can come and go as you please. They go right from the beginning. They're there throughout, talking to as many people as they can, and when it's all finished, they're still there. right? They're still there mainly talking to each other. That's the issue, right? Because if you've got a group of people who go, hello, talk to me, right? They'll go, I will, right? And that's all there is to it. What happens at those networking events, it could be in this room, and when it ends, they then filter into there, then to the area in the lifts, then they're downstairs, right? And before they're out in the street, and they're still there 40 minutes after it's finished. So that's what high yellows are. Very, very, very talkative, very communicative, and that's how they do. They're also leaders, but they lead by having, if they don't have they won't tell you what to do as much as high reds do. So both high reds and high yellows, from my own observation, is neither of them particularly likes being told what to do. That's assertive people's thing. They don't like being told what to do. But high reds like telling other people what to do. So that's slightly where they differ in that degree from high yellows. But they're actually a good team who work well together. So let's now look at the two non-assertive colours. And we're starting with left brain thinking, non-assertive, which are high greens. Now, high greens are detail obsessed, accuracy obsessed. They're quiet, careful. They're not going to start a conversation with a stranger. That's what high yellows do. And I'll say actually to the high reds and the high greens and the high blues, actually, if you don't want to get into a conversation with a high yellow, don't look them in the eye. Right, okay, because they're like dogs from that regard, is they see it as an opportunity for an interaction, right? And you might not want it, so don't let them stray, because there's not a quick enough look away for you to get back. So high greens are the opposite of high yellows. So they are more likely to want to be independent in the way in which they work, get on and do their own thing. But their attention to detail is absolutely remarkable. So the opposite thing is true. So when you're communicating with a high yellow, it's about being open and friendly and chatty and sharing information. With high yellows, it's about giving them copious amounts of detail. You can provide high greens with as much detail as you want. They might still want more, okay? Which is fine. It's not infinite. It does stop, but it's important to give them reasons for the purpose of whatever it is you need them to do. And it's vital. In the digital world, we'd be very lost without high greens. I almost say this because it's almost true, that in fact any of your smartphones or any of those types of technology that we all now take for granted, actually without high greens they wouldn't actually exist, because they're the guys that have invented them. But equally, without the other three colours, you wouldn't have yet heard of any of this stuff, because they'll be perfecting it till it's right. Right, so there you go. Good. And last but by no means least are high blues. And they are right brain thinking and non-assertive. And high blues are friendly, amiable, whereas high greens are thoughts-driven, high blues are feelings-driven people. High yellows are ideas-driven, high reds are goals-driven. And the thing about high blues is they're brilliant at building networks. Why? Because they are loyal. They stay with people who they like, who are nice to them, who don't annoy them or upset them. And you must go out of your way because not to upset high blues, right? They find it difficult to say no to you. They find it difficult to say yes, right? They take their time and they need to be reassured. But there's many big organizations, particularly in professional services, where there are high blues who have been working there for like decades, sometimes 3 decades or more. Because if they're happy doing what they're doing, they're not moving on, right? That's just how it works. They are great people. This is the difference I always say between a high red and a high yellow and a high blue, is you're going to have a really, really nice conversation with a high blue, but you're going to have to initiate it. Then they're going to be nice and friendly and warm, the sort of people you want on reception really at a hotel. High yellows they're starting a conversation with you, regardless if you want it or not. So they are the 4 iMA colours. I'm just going to run through them once more. I'm going to do it with my pointer. There you go, look at that. Anybody old enough? Did you used to have I bet you had a Ford Capri or something in your past. Did you have that? No? Dad did. Your dad did? Did you have an Ariel like that? Yeah, and people used to break them off, didn't they? And I don't know what they ever did with them until I found this. This is what happened to them. So, just to remind you, high reds are goal-driven people. They are very assertive. So when you're communicating with them, it's bang, bang, bang. That is how they want to work. They are there to move things forward and move things forward quickly. High yellows are ideas-driven people. And it doesn't matter too much if you turn down their initial idea because they've always got another one. And if you turn that one down, there's another one, right? They are constantly generating ideas. But they are people who network really well, who present really well, who are people. That's pretty much what high yellows are like. High greens here are detail-driven people. They're thoughts-driven. That's what it is. So that when you're communicating with them, so I keep forgetting how to communicate with a high yellow, but that's just to be open and chatty and conversational. High greens, it's about detail, and high blues, it's about being warm and friendly. So you can imagine that what you're doing a great deal of the time without realising it is really annoying people with your emails. Far more than you realise. Right? People read emails with their voice, not yours. They don't know how you sound, but they think that it's wrong, right? It's got to be, right? 75% of the people don't communicate with you, like you, and you need to learn how. It's not that difficult, is it? Not anymore, thanks to iMA. So I'm going to go back into some bit of audience participation. As you know, you can see it's a favour of mine, and you're smiling so much there that I'm going to come to you. You imagine that you have to send an email to somebody who you know's high red. How would you go about doing that?
Short and brief.
Yeah, short and brief and to the point. Absolutely. Even bullet points, right? They like a bit of that. And the idea with a high red is, hello, here I am. This is what you need to know. Goodbye. Right? That is it. If you want the reply you want from them, or a reply at all, that's the way to do it. So, this lady who I sat next to at lunch, who's from Toronto, tell me if you're emailing a high green, imagine how you would be doing that.
Probably more detailed, lengthier email than the high red.
Absolutely. A lot more. Like, I would say 15 paragraphs, so that's an exaggeration. But the idea is it's lots and lots and lots of detail. Right? If you want to move them to do something, you're going to have to give them all the detail they need. If you have missed one thing out, they will find it. Right? They will find it and they'll ask you that question. But when you answer that question on the one thing you've left out, again, huge amount of detail. Remember, for people communicating within their own iMA colour, this isn't a problem. You just do what you would normally do. So, we've talked about high reds, we've talked about high greens. Let's go to high blues. Let's have a look. Who have we not spoken to? There we go. Gentleman who I met earlier in the bathroom. We were just, for good reason. There was no limit. Tell me, if you're sending an email to a high blue, how might that look?
Detail and emotions.
Emotions is the key thing, yeah. It's about being open, non-assertive, and suggestive. We could do, we might do, we should do. It's that type of thing. They need reassurance and they need time. So we've done high red, high green, high blue. Here's a question, and that question is for you. How do you email a high yellow?
Maybe you don't email.
You're a genius. You're a genius. If I hadn't already done the standing up and because if I did that, you'd be the first to give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, that is absolutely. Give me a round of applause anyway, right? Oh, that's brilliant. I love the fact you stood up for that. That was marvellous. God, you two are really making my day. Yeah, that's right. Explain why you say that.
They prefer the interactive communication.
That-
Let's have a chat.
That's exactly right. You're wanting to, when you're communicating with each of these iMA colours, what you're wanting to do is get the best from them. That's the key point. And high yellows are the best way to do is, if you can see them like now in the flesh, that would be great. A video call is good. A telephone call is fine. Everything else is a little bit like they might not exactly read it properly, right? That's the risk that you take. It's just that understanding that they are in a hurry to move on to the next thing. So they often will reply to you, how they interpreted your email, not in exactly what it actually said. So quite often having a conversation with them. But if you do have to email with them, it's still short and sweet, but it is sweet, unlike with a high red. So now I'm going to ask you how you would know if you were receiving an email from one of those iMA colours. Because actually you can tell from the style what iMA colour they are. So therefore, you know how to reply to them. We just talked about how you're going to reply, but how you're always going to know. If you don't know the people, don't necessarily know their iMA colour, what's going to give them away? So anybody here? Here we go. Because you're right at the end, right? Tell me if you were receiving an email from a high red, what do you think that might look like?
Short statements, like thinking about a boss, short statements, do this, do that, thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's loads of other clues as well. One of the things that always makes me laugh about high reds, right? So imagine you having you're back to the office on Monday, and you're emailing somebody. What do you tend to put, right, about on a Monday morning after people who you know, right? You do your introduction and then you say, oh, that was in unison. That's how was your weekend, right? Now, what's going to happen is you're certainly going to get that from a high yellow, and you're going to get it from a high blue with a question mark, because actually they're quite happy to talk to you about that as well. High greens, possibly. High reds say things like, I trust you had a good weekend. Right? And you go, how do you know? Right? I might have had a terrible weekend for all you know, but the point being is they're basically saying, I've mentioned the weekend, let's move on. Right? That's how that's working. So you know you've got a high red. The other thing, is there any other clue? If you think about now I've described, the thing about this is, right, I know that you might be thinking, well, I'm a colour, thinking about yourself, what I'm a colour am I? But actually you know what I'm a colour other people are as I describe it. You'll know high reds, right? So a high red emails you. Imagine this. Think of a high red that you know. Think of emails you've got from them. What's missing that you would get from the other three people? So you know for sure it's for a high red.
No wall.
Personal touch.
Yeah, there is no. But what's the missing? There's a missing word quite often, and where it comes from. Say again? Dear, hi, to, anything that comes before your name, absolutely. They're the people that are sending you emails, right? I get emails to high reds, Ashley, bang, out. And I go, oh, hi red, and that's how I reply, right? It's as simple as that. But, you know, if you got that from a high yellow, that's because they haven't been bothered to type it, they'll probably type your name wrong and all the rest of it. But the point is, yeah, that's straight in, that's a high red. So how do you know then, therefore, I am now coming to you, so you didn't put your hand up before. High green, you get an email from a high green, how would you be able to know you're getting an email from a high green?
Again, if you get a long email, very detailed.
Yeah.
50 paragraphs.
Yes. Yeah, and that's it. And then you reply accordingly. High blue, this gentleman here?
Quite a warm email, a lot of detail, but more, not as wordy as a green.
Yeah, that pretty much. But there's also something that quite often you spot in them, and that is the fact that, so I'll tell you a story and I'll put it into context. I've done some work with EY, Ernst & Young, and in their personal tax department, the majority of their clients is on the phone. It's very affordable for them to do your tax return. If you see you face-to-face, then it becomes more expensive. It's a perfectly reasonable system. And I said to them, how do they know who they're talking to? Because they can't talk to everybody in exactly the same way. Otherwise, you go back to this. You go back to the one-size-fits-all solution. And they said, well, help us identify. So I said, do you have complaints? And they said, of course we have complaints. So I said, right, bring them to me and let me have a look. And before I went for a seminar, I went through all their complaints and gave each of the ones they gave me an iMA colour. And there was one of them, and let me tell you without giving any confidentiality away here, the body of the complaint was serious, right? On this occasion, the accountant on the other end, probably not all that experienced at that point, had made a bit of a mess, right, of this person's tax return. And it does happen. But this client should have been furious. But the client said, dear whoever, I'm really sorry to write and have to complain. And I went, high blue, right? I didn't have to go through the rest of it. I did, because I was fascinated by the fact that the whole tone was apologetic. So sometimes, you know, when they're apologizing for absolutely no reason, it's going to be a high blue. You're not going to get these people doing that, right? They're just not going to do that. High yellow email, again, is going to be, you'll be able to get that. It will just be friendly, chatty, trying to engage you, trying to find things out about you that they can use as leverage in a good way. So they know that you like rugby or whatever it is, so they're going to make a rugby reference quite early in the email, and then you'll go, right, I'm dealing with a high yellow here, because they want that little bit of conversation and familiarity. Have you got this?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, just to say, and I forgot to say, you can ask a question at any point. So you're going to, so I'll...
I'm interested because it sounds a lot like Myers-Briggs, and from what I understand, Myers-Briggs has been essentially debunked and found to be without value. And it seems to me, frankly, it's really simplistic. You could put yourself into any box based on some of the examples you've given.
So Myers-Briggs is a psychometric, right? This isn't. So what you're not getting is no profiling, no long answers and answers and answers to do. There is a 10-question questionnaire which you're going to answer very shortly, so you'll get an opportunity to see that. Also, there is no reports, right? There is no report. At the end of the questionnaire, it will tell you if you're high red, high yellow, high green, or high blue. And the reason that you're high red, high yellow, high green, and high blue, and not just red, yellow, green, blue, is one of the differentiators about iMA. And that is that everybody is a blend of all four colours, as you quite rightly point out. Individually, you are as unique as your own thumbprint. However, we just don't care in iMA, right? The dominant colour is your highest colour. It's the thing that makes you identifiable easily, and also means that the way you communicate and the way you behave is patterned, programmed, and predictable. And it's easy to remember. It's easy to remember what your iMA colour is, and it's easy to identify other people. Right? I've already described all those four styles. Once you know someone's a high green, you just talk to them in high green. Right? You don't need to dig in. I know that Myers-Briggs, and I'm sure it's really good, by the way. And I
don't think it actually quite is, from what I've...
Is it not? But it's got loads of letters and stuff, right? So it's already complicated. This is like... Well, I've always understood it with the first time I ever heard it. So as I said, it's idiot-proof, right? I've not tested it out on any idiots as far as I'm aware, but there's still that opportunity, no doubt. But it is very, very easy to understand. So any other questions? You can always just ask them at any point, because I won't remember to ask at the end.
Make it sound in the communications like you don't really transcend your color, but it seems to me when I communicate with the outside world, I'm always conscious of the audience. And when I sit down to write, whether it's the email or make a speech or get up in court, I'm going to adapt it to, well, first of all, it may be more than one person who's listening.
Yeah.
So then you've got to appeal to
you do,
sort of
absolutely. You do.
But if it is in an email, sometimes there's 7 CCs or there's 7 recipients of the email. But even if it's just one person, I do sometimes consciously, but I think mostly unconsciously, craft the email for the audience,
yeah,
if I'm trying to be persuasive. Now, if I'm trying to be argumentative, which in my line of work is quite often, I almost want to piss them off as much as possible.
Right.
Get under their skin and get under their client's skin.
Right.
Because I know my communication is going to go be read by somebody else, and I don't know who they are, but I want to have maximum impact.
Okay, so in some cases, you'll be going out to annoy some people, right? And you're being sort of direct, probably verging on rude. I mean, is that... with controlled, but
it really depends, because sometimes being rude will turn them off so much they won't listen.
So that's what I mean. So you exactly right.
You don't want that. Sometimes you want to be.
But you're okay.
Nice about it.
Listen, I know how to piss all these people off, right? Easily, right? But the point being is, we're trying not to at this point. But you're quite right. So I know a story. James, who I say you will meet James, because if you press by mistake the video at the end of the questionnaire, James comes up and says, "Congratulations, you are." Whichever iMA colour you are. So James is the inventor of iMA. He's American. He lives in the UK. And he had a situation where his village were appealing against a decision made by the local authority. And he rallied the village together. And the way he says it always reminded me, they probably had torches and they were coming down the hill. Like, that's how I envisaged it. But it was an appeal which they had to go and see an adjudicator at the Department of the Environment. And the Department of the Environment, you get the opportunity to meet the adjudicator before you go and do whatever it is you're hearing. Right? Am I using the right, Stuart? Am I along the right lines, using the right expressions? And actually, James saw immediately he was high green. Immediately. And then gathered everyone together and said, right, this is how we're going to work. And he said he thanked the high blues and high reds for their time and said, you won't be needed here anymore. Right? He's high yellow. He just stayed there because he understands iMA, but basically he got them to write a submission as, from his perspective, as a high yellow submission from hell, right? But nonetheless, it's the language of the adjudicator. When they got into the hearing, they were representing themselves. The local authority had a barrister. You know those people. Not to be confused with baristas, who are completely different from what I understand. So the barrister was high red, and he presented in an aggressive, high red type of way, which annoyed the high green. But interestingly, the group of villagers, I make them sound like some of the 18th century, no, the group of villagers had written their submission in high green. The adjudicator gives his adjudication, and James says he nudged the guy, one of his high green fellow villagers, and says, we've got this in the bag. And the high green guy said, you couldn't possibly know that, it's not possible. And he said, yeah, he's reading back our words. We're using our words. And it's another hour before it actually came to the adjudication. It was a high green paced event. And of course, they won, right? They won because it was very, very specific, speaking the language of the person who was going to make the decision. So if you go to a sales conference, anybody ever been here, done any sales training ever? No? None of you? A long time ago, right? But I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore, so there you go. That's what it is. But what happens is that there's certain sayings in the world, right? One of which we started at the beginning, right? That you hear over and over again that aren't true. Treat people how you want to be treated. That's wrong. Treat people how they want to be treated. This is what salespeople come back from sales conferences and training, and they hear what people buy. You must have heard this. What do people buy? It sounds a bit like Bruce Forsyth as well, doesn't it? Yes, it does sound a bit Bruce Forsyth, for those who won't know who he is. Bruce Forsyth was the man Donald Trump based his campaign on, really, by mistake. All he was a game show host, probably the best ever, for those who don't know who he is, and he had sayings in which the audience answered back. And I used to watch Donald Trump and thinking, he's just stolen Bruce Forsyth's entire show here. You know what I mean, don't you? Because he said, we're going to build a wall, who's going to pay for it? And the audience used to, you know that, we're going to lock her up, what we're going to do, crooked Hillary, what we're going to, they'd all shout out, lock her up, right? Whereas Bruce was simply nice to see you nice, which was much nicer in its there. But I just would want Donald Trump to go up there one day and just go, nice to see you. It would have been a marvellous moment. I've completely forgotten what I was talking about on the moment. People buy people, that's what it is, right? It just isn't the case. It isn't the case. So let me give you an example. This gentleman here, right? The world of tablet computers, what's the number one tablet computer? The number one selling, dominant of the market, it's what, sorry?
Lenovo.
No. Not even, no. What's the dominant world of tablet? It's the iPad, right? The Apple iPad is number one, right? It's undisputed number one, and yet, in laboratory form, Apple weren't ahead of the game on this. Anyone know who was ahead of the game? Think of a famous American tech company who were busy developing tablet computer and were... more Microsoft, yeah, absolutely. It was Microsoft. So the story I'm about to tell you is based on truth, right? Because I have obviously elaborated it for my own benefit. So here you have this team of people, so which iMA colour are going to be developing tech. I think I told you that at the beginning. High greens, right? I'm going to use my pointy thing. I've got it after all. So here we go. So high greens are there developing tech. And they're working on this thing and making it better and better and better and better. So every so often, as you would do, you have to report into the boss. So who was the boss of Microsoft at that particular point? You can tell me. I bet you know, don't you? I'm talking to you, Mr. Myers-Briggs, right? What?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates is the right answer. Okay, here is a question, difficult question. Who fancies asking a difficult question here? Go on. There you go. Go on, right at the back. You're going to ask a difficult question. What iMA colour is Bill Gates?
Green guy.
He is high green. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. He's high green. So here's a team of high green people, predominantly high green, reporting to a high green. So this is the conversation I imagine happened. Team, how are we getting on? Well, Bill, I'll tell you what, this bit of tech is unbelievable. It will change the world. This is a great team. Are we ready to go? Not yet. We're just perfecting it. And we've got these 5 new features. Oh, what are they? They're this, and this. Great. Go back, let's meet back in 6 weeks. So they all high-five. I don't know how high greens high-five, but they go and high-five, and they go away and do their thing. Meanwhile, sometime not long after in Apple, the high green team are developing a tablet computer. And they go and report into their boss at the time, who was Steve Jobs. Right? You can all answer this collectively. What iMA colour was? He's high red, absolutely. So the conversation is, hi team, how we're getting on? Well, Steve, I'll tell you what, this is going to be the greatest bit of tech you've ever seen. Really? Yeah. Are we ready to go? No, not quite. There's these 5 features. All right, what are they? Well, they're this, and this. Okay, that's called the iPad 2 Go, right? That's how that works, right? He is going to say to them, I'm not waiting now. I'm not waiting for you to perfect it. He was brilliant. I always say he was the opposite of Tony Blair. Tony Blair, as the Prime Minister of this country, relied a lot on asking people what they thought, what they call focus groups. And Steve Jobs hated focus groups on the basis that they give you a load of answers that were wrong, and you spend billions of pounds developing that no one wanted to buy. So give them something that they actually like and sell it to them. That's how it worked. So Steve Jobs is making this product, the iPad, happen, and you can see how high greens and high reds have worked really, really well together to make that happen. But we can all agree that Apple is a worldwide organisation, multinational, and needs cooperation. So who are the people giving the cooperation? High blues. So now we've got high reds in the mix, we've got high greens in the mix, high blues in the mix. It's packed, looking beautiful and delivered, ready in the shops. What needs to be done? It needs to be selling. And who's doing that? High yellows. Right, okay, good. So high yellows now, the high yellow sales team have to then think of who are our early adopters? Where are we going to find them? I'm going to use iMA as a way of doing it. I don't think they did, but they should have done. They're looking at iMA and they're thinking, which iMA colour are we targeting first? Answers, please. Which iMA colour are they targeting first? Yes, sir.
I'd say the high reds because they're going to tell the rest of their organization what to use.
It's good, but it's not right. Right, okay. Say again, high yellow? High yellow is the right answer. And your reason for that?
Say they'll tell everybody about it.
Yeah, but more, yes, that's the second stage. The most importantly thing is about high yellows is that they'll buy any old shit from each other, right? That is the reality of how it works, right? They are, when they go to a sales conference and say, if anyone ever tells you people buy people, you'll say, you're only 25% right. High yellows buy from high yellows. They are absolutely buying the person, and they like the person, so they'll buy the product, and then they'll tell everybody about it, and they'll show off about it. The greatest ever experiment in the history of tech was the iPhone in 2007, the first one. It didn't really work very well, but there's loads of high yellows walking around going, look, you can do bubble wrap games, right? That's what they're doing. It's the iPhone, brilliant, I should get one of these. What's it like? Well, you can't take phone calls or emails, but I tell you what, it's amazing what else it can do. You've got these things called applications that you can download from the cloud, right? That a lot of people think is in the air, which always makes me laugh. So there you go. So that's the point. The point being is that the high yellows are the people who are most likely to buy from people. High reds, on the other hand, they're going to buy if it makes them look better, feel better, save them money, save them time, particularly if it saves them time. I'm always trying to encourage high reds. It's another terrible saying, right? There's another terrible saying, along with like people buy from people and treat people how you want to be treated, is that if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. That's really bad. That's bad accounting advice, right? Because you imagine that you buy something on the internet that's cheap, it will break, and then you have to replace it with something more expensive. So in fact, it's the opposite is true. So therefore, they have to be careful about that. But the idea is, if it makes them better, they're going to want to do it, particularly if it's saving them time. How to sell to a high green? Well, you're going to need to tell them what happens when you take the back off, right? That's what they want to know, right? They want to know how it works. They're not interested in you as the person who's selling it to them. And the high blue is worried about, are you trustworthy or not? So they are buying people, but not in a positive way necessarily. So the idea is, these people, you can pitch to them, I'm telling you the same product at the same price with the same warranty, and everyone comes in and pitches to them. There's no difference. One of them is local to where they live, But nonetheless, they're still buying it from the high yellow, I guarantee you, because they're buying the person. Couldn't care less about the product. If they've got a relationship with the person, they might even buy something else from them, which of course is something that they rely on. So I'm just going to keep an eye on where we are for time. Good. Okay, so what we're going to do is I need you to get your high green made mobile phones, smartphones out. And I'm going to write a URL here. Don't do anything yet. Don't do anything yet.
Can I ask, do people transition between different colors?
No. No.
Job sounds like a high green at the beginning of his career based on all of his failures. So that's why I'm curious.
I hope I haven't run it. That's ashleyboroda-ima.com. I'll answer your question before you start. This is what I know. I don't know why you are the IMA colours that you are. I'm going to go back to this. I have no idea. But I always was interested when I first started using it, at what point in your life does your IMA colour become apparent? And then one day I was flicking through, looking for something to watch on television, and I happened upon a programme called The Secret Life of the 3-Year-Old on Channel 4. And there was human interest, they're following kids at home and blah, 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 and then there's secret cameras, unlike these guys, right? You can see they're there. There's secret cameras in the nursery, and they're, following these kids. And I was watching it going, high green, high red, high yellow, high blue, and I thought, wow, right, they're 3 and I can tell, which led me to doing work in schools. That's what inspired me to do work in schools. Because it's great if you're 7 years old and you know what IMA colour you are. And after you've found out your own IMA colours, I will tell you why. Why you are what you are, I don't know, right? So my late parents, my dad was a high green, my mum was a high red, my brother and I are both high yellows. In my family, there's my wife. I have a 25 and a 23-year-old. My wife's neither of those. She's my age, right? Just to be clear. So my wife is a high red, and my son, who's 23, is also a high red. What IMA colour am I? Yellow. I'm high yellow, right? And my daughter, who's 25, is high yellow. So there may be a reason for that, but no one knows why you are the IMA colour you are, but you are, and it doesn't change. I want you to, when you get home next, is to go and do an audit on your life and work out all the things you've done, you've liked, your friends, the things you've got best of with, the teachers you work best with, all the rest of it, and you'll see there is an absolute pattern that it's predicted by your IMA colour, which you're going to find out. If you go on to ashleyboroda-ima.com, there is a questionnaire. If you just put whatever your business work email address is and your full name, not your middle name, but first and surname, and then press start, and then there are 10 questions, that's all there are, on radio buttons. It's in this situation, would you do A or B, and you just press that, and at the end, just press the button, and then you'll get an answer. It takes about 2 minutes. High greens, it will take you a bit longer. You'll want to read all the questions, read your answers before submitting, but I'm happy to wait. So off you go.
Yeah, because almost every answer I've had to give before, neither one is correct.
B-O-R-O-D-A.
Is that an underscore or just a dash?
It's a dash. If I look at this like this, I can see how long they are at the back.
Oh, which one?
You can edit that bit out, if that's all right.
He says I'm a high yellow. It's so funny. Yeah, pretty sure I'm a high red, if anything, but most of the questions I didn't know the answer to, so yeah. I'm high red. There you go. I know. You did it on purpose. Yeah. Orange. Orange. Yeah, there's a whole interesting HBO special about how dangerous this stuff is, and Myers Briggs. Yeah, because the kids can be suicide for taking this person.
Yeah, you would, but everyone thinks that. But in reality, when you're with high red, you're different from them. That's the issue. I know. I've done 29 years of married to a high red. I know what it's like. We were once crossing the road. I got into a conversation with the man crossing the road next to me. And as we got to the other side and went in different directions, or he and then she and I went together, and she said, "Who's that?" I said, "I've no idea." She said, "Why are you talking to him?" And I went, "Because he was there." Right? She can't see the logic in that, right? Because she has to see logic. I don't see anything. I just see a person who looked at me, had a conversation, but I know his iMA colour. Don't know who he is, never seen him before. No, probably, as far as I know, I've not seen him again. I may have done, I don't know. But he was also high yellow, right? We just bonded while crossing the road. 30 seconds, that's all it is. Before the green man comes in. It's weird, because you're getting all those reaction shots. You turn up your nose and go, "I don't like this." He's got it on the camera. Be there forever. He's got you, Emma, giving yourself a standing ovation.
Someone's got to.
Yeah? Good, have you finished?
Yeah.
Come out high yellow?
No.
You haven't?
No.
No, come off it. Really?
Yeah.
Really? No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My husband's biggest complaint is I'm too task orientated.
Oh, right, task orientated is bad, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Can you just please stop being task orientated and imagine what's going to go wrong 10 steps ahead of where we are now?
And what iMA colour is he?
Oh, I said, those blue or green.
Oh, right, that's one of those two. Right, okay. Good. Are we still waiting, anyone? Yes? We'll still wait. We're waiting for high greens. We'll wait there. Oh, no. Good. Okay, I'm going to move on anyway because I've only got about 9 minutes to go. So I just want to conclude about. So just high reds, give me a cheer. High blues. Hands go up. High greens. You don't want to cheer, do you, high greens, right? Okay, high yellows, give us a cheer. That's what a cheer sounds like, right? That's what it is, right? Even that is true to form, right? That's what it is. It's very useful. What's the practicalities of using iMA? I'm just going to finish off today by explaining the ways in which it can be used. And this is quite important in the worlds in which you work in. Firstly, let's talk about clients and all the people involved in a case. If you know their iMA colour, you know how to talk to them. I've said there's law firms I've worked with who'll talk about difficult clients. And I say to them, if I can rid them of that client being difficult, would you be happy? And at first they think I'm not getting rid of the client, right? Not my business, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not doing that. I'm just finding out by the way in which they describe that person, I'm telling them this is their iMA colour, and therefore this is what they need to do now to have a successful communication with them. Or if that doesn't work, because the person, solicitor, whoever, is uncomfortable dealing with that client, then swap them round for somebody who's the same iMA colour. That works really well. You get on best with the people of the same 25% as you. There is one caveat, though, of one iMA colour where occasionally that goes awry. Can anybody guess which one that is? It's high reds, absolutely. If you've got two people who are convinced they are both right, that is a difficult situation. It can be mediated. Which iMA colour's mediating with high reds? Only one possibly can. High yellows, right, okay, because they're assertive. Don't put 3 high reds in, that would be like that. That would be terrible. That really would. Because high yellows like to win people over, etc. The other thing to say, and this is really, really key, this is the world in which I'm desperate to revolutionise and can do because I can use iMA to do it. And that's the world of employment and recruitment. People have iMA colours. Every single person has an iMA colour. And jobs have iMA colours as well. And if you match those two things together, there is magic in the economy. And the main reason is that people are happy going to work. People being miserable going to work means that occasionally people get a raw deal. They do, right? If you are a high green doing a high yellow job, you are not giving what your customer needs. But if you are a high red doing a high red job, then it's all going to work out really well. And it's also used for mediation, by the way. So for family mediation, Resolution, who are the professional body for family law, have adopted iMA. So the idea you're mediating between people, if you know their iMA colours before they come, you're at a massive advantage. It's actually a good way of saving time as well. You'll know exactly, right, I see what's happening here, even before it starts. And then you know how to talk to them. But the recruitment piece is really, really important. You're going to know that you are looking for a job that's either task-led or relationship-led. They're not both, right? They're either one or the other. Either you need a self-starter or you need a completer finisher. And whichever two of those four things you need decides the iMA colour of the job, in the same way as the four elements of right brain, left brain, assertive and non-assertive work. So, gentleman here with a beard, can you think of a job? Don't tell me. It's like a magician here. Don't think, keep this job to yourself. Right, think of a job. Any job. Good. And I'm going to ask you some questions about this job, and then I will tell you when to reveal it. Is this job something that is task-led or relationship-led? It's relationship-led. So therefore, a bit like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, we're going 50-50. There's only high yellows or high blues are now in the mix. That's all there is. So tell me, does it need a completer finisher or a self-starter? It needs a completer finisher. So based on the information you've told me, I think we're looking for a high blue for this job. What is the job?
Correct. Business advisory.
There you go. So there you are. So that's how it works. Right? I mean, it could be more easy than that. But the point being is, I go into companies where they've got a high green job, for instance, and they can't find anybody for it. Right? Because all the people they've had, 3 people in the last 18 months, all of which they've either left or they've got rid of. And when you describe, tell me about these people, they were all high yellow in one case. All 3 of them were high yellow. So I said, who makes these decisions? And the CEO said, it was me. And I said, okay, how come you gave them the job? And he said, in his high red way, straight away, they interviewed well. I said, I know they do. He said, how do you know that? I said, they were high yellow, right? That's what they do. And I said, was it one of those where they came in and by the end they were asking you so many questions, it's like you were being interviewed? He went, oh yeah, it was a bit like that. And I said, and then you fell for it, right? So you gave a high yellow a job that high greens can do and only high greens can do, which is why you haven't found the person. And he said, well, I can't sit and talk to somebody who doesn't communicate with me in the way I want to be communicated with. And I said, well, you won't find the right person then. Don't interview them. I said, if they're really bad at interviews, give them the job, right? That's what you have to level, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And the sooner that people know that, the better. My idea is to build a virtuous circle. If you are an employee and you love your job, you go to work very happy, you have a healthy mind, and your team, the people you work with, also benefit. So you're moving to the 1/4 on the clock. You get to the 1/2 by the fact that your clients or customers, depending on the type of business you've got, are benefiting from it as well. Then there's the company. They're benefiting from it. Well, how are they benefiting it from it? Because the customer is happy with what they're getting, or client, and they're recommending you and using you more often. Then everybody benefits, both employee and employer, because they've got somebody who loves doing their job well. They don't have to go and find someone else to recruit, and that person doesn't have to leave and find a job somewhere else. It is a virtuous circle. I'm just going to, again, I'm sorry I keep checking time, but I don't really want to run over. It says here I'm at a conference. I've only got 2 minutes. But I just want to say, if I said to you, Sully, would you know who I meant? He landed a plane on the Hudson River in 2009. Does anyone know the reason why he landed that plane safely? The answer is on here. It's because he's high green. It's because he's high green, as most airline pilots are, thankfully. Right? If you remember what the opposite of a high green is, if you're scared of flying and you get on a plane and someone goes, hi, how you doing? I've got some jokes for you, get off, right? You don't want high yellows flying planes. But his attention to detail meant that it landed the plane. Right? These people would have been sure they would have been able to land it somewhere else. They wouldn't. The plane crashes. These people will be going, I need reassurance. I'm not sure. Plane crashes. These people are going, I'll tell you what could possibly go wrong, right? So therefore, I'm telling you to that is jobs have colours, right? Seriously, air traffic control people, if you ever met any of them, all high greens. Your neurosurgeon, you ever that, you want them to be high green. If they're not, you want one, right? You want somebody who's responsible for detail, not a high red who go, well, really and truly it was the patient's fault they kept wriggling, right? It's not going to be that. So with 1 minute to go, I just firstly want to thank you for joining in as well. I know that you've been comfortably sat at tables, protected by the furniture, and here you're a little bit exposed. So thank you for playing along. Has that been helpful? Good. Hopefully, I want you now to see people differently and communicate with them in the way they wish to be treated. And if you want to talk to me about it further, I'm sure Helen will kindly put you in my direction. But as far as recruitment, retention, as far as communicating with difficult clients, all of those things can be solved by using iMA. And that is that. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.